Good evening, everyone. I see we've got a few people online already. This is Mark, the founder and managing director of the Public Speaking Skills Academy. We'll get going in just a little while. We'll just give everyone just another minute or so just to get online and so we can all enjoy the webinar together. What I will ask you to do is to use the box below the window there that you can see to just drop me a note to say hi. Tell me you're online, and I suppose if you have any questions, feel free to fire them through to me at any point during the webinar, and I will happily answer them as we go through. So let's get going. It's 7:30 now according to my watch, so we will kick into the webinar. So first of all, thank you for taking the time to join me on this webinar and take time out of your evening to sit and listen and to see how you can improve your public speaking in 2015. Just a little bit about myself. For those of you who don't know me, obviously I'm Mark Hyde, and that's my picture you can see there on the screen. I've got 12 years plus experience in helping people improve their public speaking. My journey with relation to public speaking started over 12 years ago. I have a background in IT, and I was working for an IT consulting company during the boom years of the late 90s and early 2000s into the, I suppose, the IT recession period of about 2001, 2002. And I was summarily sort of sent packing from my job in November 2002. Now, November's never a great time to sort of finish up work and then start looking for a new job, because obviously everyone's shutting down for Christmas and then you kick into summer holidays over January. So I had an extended period sitting on the beach and developed into, found myself into a nice little rut. Eventually my wife Diana got tired of seeing me around the house while she was going out working, while I went off and enjoyed myself on the golf course on the beach, and put me into a public speaking course to help rebuild my confidence after being out of work, and also just to get me out of the house. At the end of that course, I found myself back in the workforce, and as fate would have it, I was back working with people that I was working with before I got retrenched in November 2002. So this is early 2003. I'm back in the workforce with exactly the same people that I was working with before, and I noticed a marked difference. There was a massive difference between the Mark Hyde of November 2002 and the Mark Hyde in February, March of 2003. The only thing that had changed is I'd spent a bit of time on the beach developing my suntan and doing this public speaking course. This public speaking course allowed me to communicate better in the workplace, and I was able to project myself more confidently and more authoritatively in meetings. As a result, when entering back in the workforce, all of a sudden, I started to move through my career in IT a lot faster. I was getting promotions, and I was able to make significant extensions into my pay packet and get paid an awful lot more than what I was prior to being retrenched. And I attribute that solely to my public speaking skills. That's the only difference there was. And that's why now, 12 years on, where I've been helping people, I've been coaching people, and I've been mentoring people to improve their public speaking skills, I have such a firm belief in it because I know that it can make a difference, because it made a massive difference for me. Now, this applies whether you are in a corporate career, whether you're looking to get a promotion, or whether you run your own small business. You need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to communicate to colleagues. You need to be able to communicate to clients. You need to be able to communicate to managers. Whoever it is, you need to be able to present yourself to. You need to be able to deliver ideas to, convey information to. If you can do that confidently, you can do that authoritatively, you can do it with passion. If you can do that, your potential to earn, whether it's a greater salary or greater return from your clients through better projects, is massively increased. And that's why I want to help you improve your public speaking skills. So my commitment to you on this webinar tonight. Firstly, I am going to provide you information that will make a difference today. What I'm going to share with you tonight is information that you can apply to your very next speech, your very next presentation, even your very next communication tomorrow. You can make a difference. You can start to see an improvement if you follow the advice that I share with you tonight. I'm going to share with you proven techniques. These are techniques that I implement. They're techniques that I teach my clients. They're techniques that have worked for me. They've worked for others. They will work for you too. And I'm not going to hold anything back. If you want more information, ask me and I will give it to you. I'm going to share with you everything that I know that I can fit within the concept of this webinar. And as I say at the bottom here, I'm here for you beyond the webinar. If you want help, you've got questions, you'll see my email address come up at the end of the webinar. I am happy to take emails. Ask me questions and I'm happily help you. If you want to catch up for a coffee or you want to catch up for a Google Hangout chat online, I will happily catch up with you. So if you have questions and you want them answered, shoot them through to me and we will get answers so that you can have the information you need to move forward. So let's move into the tips. My first tip, and probably it's the most important tip, and it's one of the areas I see a lot of novice speakers make mistakes, is they don't know why they're up presenting, why they're delivering a speech. Every speech, every communication, every time you share ideas, there's a reason behind it. There's a reason you're doing it. You need to understand why. Why are you presenting? Where are you going to take your audience? Where are they? What's their starting point and where are you taking them to? Now, there's two purposes, believe it or not, to every speech. Firstly, a general purpose. Every speech has one of four general purposes. You're either there to inform an audience, you're there to persuade them, you're there to inspire them, or you are there to entertain them. Now, if we look at most corporate and business presentations, it's actually going to be one of the first three in most instances. So it's either to inform, persuade, or inspire. When you speak, do you know what you are trying to achieve out of those four or even out of those three? Once you know whether you're there to inform, persuade, or inspire, you then have to sit there and say, okay, well, what am I specifically trying to achieve with this presentation? Could it be that your general purpose is to persuade? Then the specific purpose is to persuade your audience, whether it be, say, a potential client, around the benefits of your service, or persuade them to potentially meet up with you for a coffee chat? Or is it to persuade them to go to a second meeting, a second presentation? Whatever it is, you need to be specific. Now, this specific purpose needs to be down to the point of probably no more than 10 or 12 words. If you cannot write in 10 or 12 words exactly what it is you're trying to achieve, you need to be more focused, be more thoughtful about what it is you want to achieve out of this presentation. So take the time early on as you're preparing your presentation to think about why you're speaking. Generally, what's your purpose? And then specifically, what exactly are you trying to achieve? Get that down into 10 to 12 words. Second tip, know who you are talking to. You need to know who your audience is. Who is in the room? What is their understanding of the subject that you're going to be presenting to them? You cannot walk in blind and expect to have a successful outcome. The more you know about the people in the room, the better your chances of success. So you need to be thinking about, as you start to prepare your presentation, and you'll see that these early tips are all around how to prepare. Then we'll move into some tips around how to deliver your presentation more effectively. But if we look at these early stages, the tips here are all around the preparation. And this point here, we're talking about preparing a presentation and knowing your audience. So once you need to know who's going to be in the room, what's their motivators, what are the things that are going to interest them, and what are the things that are going to basically demotivate them. Obviously, you want to focus in on the things that are going to motivate them and avoid topics, words, phrases, areas that are going to demotivate them. Knowing who your audience is, as I say down the bottom here, allows you to select the right information to cover in your presentation. You need to be honest and upfront with who is in the room. You need to be honest with yourself. Don't believe, and we'll talk of this a little bit later on, don't cover material that's irrelevant to, it's important to you, but it's not important to your audience. So you need to think about, for example, in a business setting, who is the decision maker in the room? Who is going to be the one that you need to concentrate your efforts on? If you're presenting to a board, for example, is there a dominant person in the board that if you get them, their approval, their endorsement, the rest will fall in line? Or are there several? And if there's several, what's their styles? How do they like to see or hear information? And what information do they like to receive? These are all important factors for you to think about as you gather up your material to put into your presentation. So take the time to know who you are talking to. Our third tip here, establish rapport. Now, the reason I put this tip in is because I want you to understand that because you've been asked to deliver a presentation, because you have 20, 40, 50, however many people in a room sat there to listen to your presentation, does not mean that you have a connection with them. It doesn't actually mean that they are going to listen. So you need to take the time to establish a rapport with your audience in the room. It's not an automatic thing because you're presenting and they're listening that you're going to have a connection. You've got to take the time to think about how you are going to connect with your audience. And there's a couple of things that you can do with regards to this. First up, prior to the presentation actually starting, before you get to the point where you are going to start delivering your material, take the time to what I call meet and greet. It's not uncommon to see a nervous presenter hunched in the corner, looking over their PowerPoint or looking at their laptop, just revalidating their material. If in the 5-10 minutes before a presentation is due to start, if you don't know your material, know what you're going to say at that point, there is nothing you can do in that last 10 minutes that's going to cram that information in. You're actually much better off investing your time building a rapport with the audience. And this is, should we say, cheat time. It's cheat time in the sense that you're leveraging the time that you have before your presentation starts to make your presentation more successful. So what you can do is go and talk with a few audience members and just build a connection. You'll find then that this helps you with nerves. For those of you who are nervous speakers, you can do this activity here and it will help you calm your nerves, center yourself, and manage the butterflies. You'll find then that you have in the audience a few friendly faces when you do start to get up and speak. Now, when you do get up to speak, I want you to do two things. First of all, compare your energy with your audience. If you have ever seen a motivational speaker come in and deliver a presentation, sometimes in a corporate setting, it can feel completely disconnected, certainly at the start. Now, the reason for this is you'll often see a motivational speaker come bounding onto the stage. They're high energy, full of enthusiasm, big, expressive gestures. But you've got a corporate audience that sat there, arms folded. They've maybe just come out of 3 other back-to-back meetings. They've got no energy. It's just after lunch. They're not enthused. They've been told to be there. They haven't chosen to be there. And so as a result, you've got a complete disconnect on the energy levels between your audience and your speaker. Now, the only person who can control that is the speaker. What you as the speaker needs to do is to match the audience's energy level. If they are starting out at a low energy point, you need to start at a low energy point, start out a little bit slow, a little bit more subdued, and then take up the energy if that's where you want to head to. Similarly, if they're high energy and you come out as, if your audience, is high energy and you have low energy start into your presentation as a speaker, you're going to have a disconnect again. So you need to match the audience and then take and move their energy levels where you want to take them. Finally, deal with elephants in the room. This is particularly pertinent in corporate presentations. What am I referring to here? I'm referring to the things that are unspoken but are on everybody or everyone in the audience's mind. I have sat through presentations where they've announced restructures, corporate restructures, and you mean they're never a pleasant presentation and a pleasant thing to listen to at the best of times because it creates obviously uncertainty. But the presentations that I have that I can recall, all of them, every single one of them did not address the elephants in the room. They never actually said and answered the questions that everyone had in their mind first up. Now, the elephants in the room can also be other things. It could be, for example, the air conditioning is not working or the lighting is not as good as it could be. Now, if that's the case and there's nothing you can do about it, that's fine, but address it. Let everyone know that you are aware of it. Let your audience know that you understand that the room is a little bit hot, and so you will move through your presentation as quickly as possible to get them out of there. If you know that, for example, your presentation is immediately before a lunch break, then say to everyone, I know that we got lunch on our mind. If you can just concentrate for the next 45 minutes, and I will do my best to work through this as quickly as possible to get you out. By doing that, you relieve the tension in the minds of the audience. Taking that tension away then frees them up to connect with you and listen to you. If you don't, they will spend the entire presentation thinking about the air conditioning, the other thoughts that are on their mind, the concerns they have, the lighting, whatever it is, the fact that they want to head out to lunch. Whatever is on their mind will be playing on it unless you relieve that tension and build a connection with them. This is actually tip 4, but for some reason it's come up as tip 5. But this tip here is get the audience's attention from the start. Similar to the last tip where about building rapport, this tip here is really about saying you don't have the right to expect your audience to listen to you. Rather, you've got to earn that right. You earn that right by cutting through the noise that's in their head. In today's society, we are bombarded with more distractions than we ever have been before. And if you go to any presentation, you will find that there are a series of heads bowed of people surfing the net on their smartphones. Now, if they're doing that, they're not paying attention to you. The reason they're not paying attention is because no one's grabbed their attention from the start. What you must do to be a great presenter and a great public speaker is have a powerful opening which cuts through that noise. Think, people are going to be considered about emails they need to respond to, shopping lists they need to get done, where they need to take the kids after work. All of these things are important to people and it's going to be at the forefront of their mind. You need to cut through that and make your presentation, your subject, the most important thing for them for the next 20, 45 minutes, however long your presentation is. So to do that, you've got to start out with a powerful opening. Now, a powerful opening can be something as simple as a quote, a question, or even just a startling statement. Something which is just going to get their ears to prick up, their thoughts to go, oh, and then it will cause them to lift their eyes and give you their undivided attention. Now, just a couple of sort of words of warning here. Your quote, your rhetorical question, and I would just say, if it's a rhetorical question, be prepared for if someone does actually fire out an answer to you. Just think about how you're going to handle that, or your starting statement. Make sure that it's relevant to the subject. And this might sound contradictory, but the lesser known the quotes or the question or the starting statement is, generally the better and more successful it's going to be. The reason for this is that when you deliver a quote, if the audience knows the quote fully, their brains will basically finish the quote before you can verbalize it. When that happens, they will basically disconnect again because they'll know where you're heading. So they'll think, okay, well, there's no need for me to listen any further. You want a quote or a statement or a question which is actually going to cause them to think a little bit and go, oh, I didn't realize that. Give them a fact, give them something that makes them just prick up and go, yeah, that's right. This is a bit different. This is something I need to pay attention to. That's your aim with the opening. Obviously, then with the rest of your opening statements, you lead into the subject, set up the body of your speech, but at this very opening lines, your first 30, 60, maybe 90 seconds, you've got to get their attention. If you don't get it at that point there, it's very, very hard for you to capture it at any other point over the course of your presentation. So show it up front and show the effort up front to get their attention right from the get-go. Now, this is the true tip 5. Show your personality. And this is really important in business presentations because there's the old adage that people work with the people they like, know, and trust. Yet what you see in so many corporate presentations is basically boring businessman Bob. He gets up and delivers a monotone speech that is just factually based. It's all information, information, information. And it's just drones on and on. And all it does is suck the life out of your audience, sucks the life out of the room, and it causes them to go to sleep. What you want to do is actually avoid to be boring business presenter Bob. Be enthusiastic. If you're enthusiastic about the topic, let it shine through. Smile. Use your facial expressions to show your enthusiasm, to show why you are there. This passion that you show and your enthusiasm will shine through and help you sell your message. Also, look at vocal variety. Look at how you are saying it. How are you delivering the words? Are you delivering it with enthusiasm? You need to show your personality, show who you are, and so that your audience buys into it. Don't try and be something you're not. Be yourself on stage and show your personality, to have some of your enthusiasm, your energy, your personality come through the presentation, and you will get your audience on side with you. So that's a big one that can help set you apart from pretty much every other business presentation I've seen. Be yourself. Just use your body, use your vocal variety to make yourself more engaging, a little bit bigger than what you would normally be in a one-on-one conversation, because here you're talking to one-on-many. This tip here, just enough detail. One of the things that you'll find as you're preparing a presentation is that you get wedded to the material. You'll have reams and reams and reams of information that you want to share with an audience. And it's important to you to show that you know the subjects back to front, upside down, inside out. The challenge is your audience actually doesn't care how much you know. They only care about what they need to know. So this is where it comes back to one of our earlier pieces of advice in terms of knowing who you're talking to, knowing the information that they need to know. You need to take the time to know who it is you are basically going to be presented to, so you know what information you need to present to them. The challenge for you at this point here is to then be prepared to eliminate. Cut out those reams and reams and reams and reams of paper, those reams of material, that reams of information that you could share, and pare it back to just the core points that need to be covered. And this is exceedingly challenging because you do get wedded to the information. It's important to you, and you've taken the time to pull it all together. You want to demonstrate your expertise, and it's the best way that you can demonstrate your expertise and to show your credibility is to be able to refine the information and refine the points to only what is relevant for your audience and for what you're trying to achieve in the presentation. You just have to have the confidence within yourself and within your preparation that that's going to be the right way to go. And for many people starting out, that's the challenge, is to know that by printing back the information and only giving the minimum required, that they're actually doing the audience the service they wanted to. It's actually a disservice to share with them information overload. So you're the expert. Prune it back to only what is required for your audience to achieve the aims of your presentation. Your audience will actually reward you for brevity. They don't want to be overloaded. So keep this in mind. Your audience will value brevity more than they're going to value your information overload. They look to you as the presenter. And one of the benefits of being a great public speaker is that you are seen as the expert. You are seen as the trusted SME, the subject matter expert. You are put up there on the guru pedestal because you are talking and you are standing in front of a group of people presenting. Leverage that benefit by saying, okay, I will now take out and only provide the information that is required for your audience. So provide the audience just enough and no more, and you will have a successful presentation. Talk to one, speak to many. What on earth do I mean? I've heard it phrased by one of my colleagues in the United States of, it's your you to I ratio. How many times in your presentation are you using the word you? In other words, you're referring to your audience members. Or is your presentation like a 3-year-old child? I did this, I think you need that information, I think you should hear this. Turn it on its head. You need to ensure that your presentation has the word you in it far more than it has I in it. Your aim with any presentation is to personalize it for your audience. And personalizing it means putting it in the language so that each individual audience member can feel that you are talking to them and only them. Let's have a look at an example. You'll often hear a presenter or a speaker say something along the lines of, they'll want to know an answer to a group of people. For example, say, raise your hand who lives in Sydney. Let's have a look at that statement again. Raise your hand who lives in Sydney. That there is a classic statement of speaking to many people. You're talking to many people. So you might have a group of 50 people in the room. You're asking, raise your hand who lives in Sydney. Now let me challenge you to say, if that was a one-on-one conversation, would you phrase the question that way? My suspicion is that you would not. You would not say, raise your hand who lives in Sydney if you were talking to one individual. And that's I suppose, the benchmark that you need to consider when you're writing your speech. So what we would do in that case there is to rephrase the question, raise your hand if you live in Sydney. It's just a simple dynamic change, but that change in language then personalizes the presentation, personalizes the words for every individual audience member. So you could have a room full of 100 people, a room full of 1,000 people. Each of them will be listening to what you have to say and feel that you are talking exclusively to them. That's powerful. That's really powerful. And that's what you can use to influence people. because you can now leverage public speaking to influence groups of 100,000, however many you can get in front of. And it's just a simple turn of phrase, but you're going to build a connection with every single person in that room because they feel that you are speaking individually to them. Can you see the power of this? This is the good stuff here. This is the stuff that can make a massive difference to you. You can have a look at this tomorrow and have a look at how you're phrasing your presentations, and just with a slight adjustment in the words, become that much more powerful, that much more dynamic. Think about it. Storytelling. This is the big one from a business presentation perspective. You don't see it's neglected. It's a big neglected area in corporate presentations. And it's so sad and it's so depressing that it's so underutilized. From my IT days, I can remember one presentation from, it was 1999, I think it was the year. And it was memorable for one reason, and I can still remember it to this day. Now, how many presentations can you remember from over, 10, 15 years ago? I would be surprised if many of you can remember many presentations or any presentations from that point. The reason this presentation was so impactful was that we had the whole gathering of the IT department for this large insurance company gathered in a town hall session. We had the head of claims, the head of the claims department come in and wanting to highlight to the IT department the impacts of when a system goes down and customers aren't able to get their claims processed. Now, there are several ways that you could approach a problem like this. He could have just used statistics, for example, to say, look, when the claim systems go down, the call waiting times go up. And from a logical point of view, it would have been correct, but it would not have been memorable. Instead, what made his presentation more memorable and what inspired everyone in that room to want to do better and to make sure the systems were better was he actually leveraged the power of a story. He provided stories of a poor 80-year-old grandmother who couldn't get her claims processed because the system had gone down. He then described the claims consultant that then took that claim eventually and the experience around that. That put it at an emotional level. That put it at an inspirational point that made people want to do something different. That's the power of stories. You make your messages memorable purely because they are emotional. And that's what you want to have happen. You need to have people moved by your messages. Otherwise, there's little value in you getting up and speaking. So make your messages memorable by using stories. And there are heaps and heaps of places in every business, in every organization where you can find stories. The complaints department, that's the obvious one. That's the one where you're going to have a plethora of stories. Plenty of experiences there where something bad has happened and hopefully they've been rectified. But you've got real life tangible stories there. Talk to anybody who actually has to deal with a customer. They are going to have a wealth of stories for you. Or just talk to anyone who has been around the organization for any length of time. They'll be able to give you stories that will support pretty much any message that you want to share. Any messages that you need to convey, there will be a story for it. Now, if you want to, and tie back all of the logical data back into those real life events. So if you want to talk about, for example, call wait times, going up or down as a result, you can still include that data, but then provide the story as the anecdotal example of what happens. Brings that data to life, brings that information to life, and makes it real, and makes it emotional, makes it tangible. And when you get those three things, you get a memorable message. You get memorable points that are then acted upon. So just bear that in mind and start searching out and find yourself a story file. Have a look at every experience that you have, good, bad, or ugly, and just jot it down, because there will be an opportunity for you at some point to include it in a presentation. Tip number 9, know when to be quiet. This is the most important sound in public speaking. Go back one. The reason that this is the most important sound is because this is what gives your audience time to digest your information. And you need to give them this opportunity. You need to give them the opportunity to just absorb the words that you are saying. Now, you don't have to do this at the end of every sentence, for example. This is something that you leverage at the end of a key point. So if you've got an idea, a thought that you want to really ram home into the minds of everyone in the room, this is where you deliver that key idea, that key thought, that key message. And then you just hold silent. 1, maybe 2 seconds. Now, it'll feel like an eternity to you initially, but what it will do is it will give your audience time to digest. In the same way that if you throw out a question to the audience, if it's a rhetorical question, you throw that out to the audience for them to answer in their own mind. Give them time to answer it. Again, shut up. Let them digest it. Let them think about it. If you master this one simple skill, it will allow you to become perceived as a real powerful speaker, someone who commands the speaking area, because you can just authoritatively and powerfully stand there. People will be in awe because everyone hates that silence. They try desperately to fill it. As a confident and powerful speaker, by showing that that doesn't frighten you, there's no fear of that, you actually embrace it, you will start to become more respected as a public speaker. So just remember, this is the most powerful sound in speaking, the sound of silence. Tip 10. The last of the 10 tips that I wanted to share with you tonight. It's all about rehearsal. You've got to practice. You have got to rehearse. Don't fall into the trap of believing that you are good enough to just get up there and just wing it. Winging is not going to be a strategy for success. It's not going to be something that allows you to consistently deliver great, powerful, and memorable presentations, to allow you to become a dynamic speaker just by winging it. You've got to put the effort in to prepare properly and then practice it. Now, you'll notice there that I sit there and say, take the time to practice, but not in front of a mirror. I abhor the idea of practicing in front of a mirror. I cannot think of anything worse, to be honest. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I say this. Firstly, when you are presenting or practicing in front of a mirror, you are going to become very self-conscious. You're going to spend a lot of time looking at your reflection, and it's going to be distracting for you. As a result, you'll start to lose focus on your material. And I hope you're starting to see a bit of a vicious cycle coming through here. You start to spiral because you then start to lose focus on your material. You start to think you don't know it well enough. You then start to focus a little bit more on your delivery, and you just get progressively worse. So I find it actually doesn't help. It hinders my preparation. What you are looking for when you practice is two things. You want to basically validate your material. Excuse me. You want to validate your material, validate that you're comfortable with it and that it flows properly. You also want to find some independent audience members, shall we say. If you can find a test audience that you can validate your presentation on, you can get them to say, put themselves into the shoes of your audience, your intended audience, and say, okay, well, based upon what they understand of that audience, will the presentation hit the mark? Will it achieve the outcomes you want it to? If it does, great. If it doesn't, you've got opportunity to refine it and tweak it. You also want to get an understanding of your delivery. How well do you deliver this presentation? Do you have nervous gestures? Do you start to twiddle your fingers, shuffle from one foot to another? It's amazing some of the unique gestures that the body does to try and mask nervousness for novice speakers. Do you have those gestures? Are you using the speaking area appropriately? Can you manage and handle your PowerPoint properly? All of these things are worth checking and worth tweaking and worth practicing, so that when it comes time to deliver the presentation to its real audience, you're polished and you're prepared. And I love this little quote here from Michael Caine. Rehearsal is the work, performance is the relaxation. So by doing this bit of rehearsal, by doing this bit of practice, it means that when you stand up in front of the real audience, the intended audience, you can actually enjoy the performance because you know that everything is going to work. Everything is going to go as you expected because you've practiced it, you've refined it, you are ready to go. So please take the time to rehearse your presentations. Find yourself a test audience if you can and get them to assess your material and assess your delivery. A bonus tip. This is one that's worth pointing out on a webinar. Public speaking is an active skill. Sorry, let's get my grammar and language correct. It's an active skill. You cannot master public speaking by just attending webinars and reading books. You need to be in front of audiences, practicing, trialing things out. Now, don't wait until your speech is perfect. Don't wait until you think your delivery skills are perfect. Don't wait until your confidence is perfect. None of that will happen unless you get in front of an audience. So find an audience. Find a way to practice. Get in front of an audience and deliver presentations. Put your hand up for every opportunity. If there's an opportunity for you to deliver a speech, deliver a presentation, grab it, because that is the only way you will get better at public speaking. So please, we've covered 10 plus a bonus tip here tonight. You have the advice, you have the skills to go off and deliver a great presentation. But you've got to take the opportunity to exercise those public speaking muscles and get in front of an audience. So please, when the opportunity comes up, do it. Take it and do a presentation. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. You can work on it and develop your skills for the next time around. Now, we've covered 11 tips here this evening, and you've got lots and lots of advice. What I would like to offer you to sit there and say, if you like what you've seen tonight, then I want you to take action. First of all, we've talked about taking every opportunity there is to develop your public speaking skills. So find public speaking opportunities, whether it's presentations to clients, presentations at work, whatever it may be, take the opportunity. If you are interested, I have, for the first 5 people that email me, a dynamic skills discovery session where we can go through and we will get onto a Google Hangout, onto a Skype session, and we will go through and assess your public speaking skills. We'll go through a questionnaire. If you have video, we can watch the video online so that I can work with you to identify the areas in where you're strong and the areas where you might want to look at working at so that you can start to hone and target the right public speaking muscles. So please, if you want to improve your public speaking, now is the time to take action. Whether it's by yourself or with me, Mark, at the Public Speaking Skills University, I want to help you develop your public speaking skills. Thank you for taking the time out on this Wednesday night. I hope that you have got heaps out of this presentation. If you have questions, if you want to connect, there's the website, thepublicspeakingskillsuniversity.com. Email me any questions you have. I'm happy to sit down, whether it be via email or over coffee, to have a chat with you. We can get on to a Google Hangout, whatever mechanism works best for you. I want to help you develop your public speaking skills. I have the packages, I have the programs available that can help you develop and hone those public speaking skills. Master the skill so that you can become a dynamic public speaker, someone who, when you stand up in front of an audience, you can actually have greater influence than anyone else around you. And as a result, you are going to get more clients and enhance your career. Thank you for taking the time to join me on this webinar tonight. And I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you so much for joining me.